Hi, kitty cats. I am Amethysta Herrick, your hostess for the Purple Podcast, a weekly discussion from your friends down here at the Purple Paw Clan, exploring the intersection of identity and gender, sexuality and intimacy, and community and spirituality. This content right here is brought to you by supporters of the Purple Paw Clan. If you are already a supporter, first of all, let me just thank you for your ongoing support. Subscribers, when you subscribe, not only receive new content directly to their email inboxes as soon as it publishes, but are also able to interact with every contributor directly, and that actually includes me, and I cannot come up with a single reason why you would not want to interact with me. So, if you would like to support shows just like this one, as well as other podcasts, videos, and written articles by our contributors, I hope you will consider subscribing using those links you're going to find down there in the show notes. I am very excited to introduce my guest today, Dr. Jeff Feinman. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited about this. So Jeff is a veterinarian and a holistic connector and educator. Jeff also founded, I believe along with your wife, the Holistic Actions community. And this is a whole community, a resource hub for improving pet health. Now, maybe some of you are out there saying, why are you talking about pets, Amy? But Jeff has some exceptional opinions, I think, just on holistic healthcare in general. Look, you're already like, hey, don't play me up too high. So this is why, I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. So I'd like to start off go back as far as we can here. Can you share with us just what happened in your life that led you to become such a passionate advocate for holistic healing in particular?
Thanks for asking. It's really been an evolution that goes back to 1975 when I was 14, and I started manifesting abnormal symptoms, scary symptoms. They were neurologic things that some people were calling seizures, but it was basically a loss of the ability of my brain to control my body. And they would come and go throughout my life, and they could not be diagnosed. And basically, within a year, everything started to be in my head.
Oh, gosh.
So for most of my life, I went, thinking that I was, causing all of my physical symptoms, which unfortunately are there are quite a few of them, although they are reducing. We'll get into that later. But to answer your question, that context of being different, of having symptoms, of being an outsider, that I think helped inform the natural curiosity to understand myself, to understand life around me, and led to a passion in two things, which is science. You would often find me in the basement of my house doing science experiments, but also magic. So I was, as a young professional magician, doing magic shows. So,
wow.
This weird brain, which we later learn is actually a brain that is different than it should be. But what I observed, and the reason I brought that up, is what I observed over the years were patterns of sickness, whether it was myself or the animals. And I went to veterinary school after doing research in molecular biology. So I was well trained in, the scientific method, and then in vet school, well trained in being a veterinarian, in dealing with symptoms and understanding the body. Practiced as a conventional vet for about a decade, and that curiosity allowed me to see that my patients would get better, get worse, get better, get worse, get better, and that the overall trend was for animals to be getting sicker than they ever were in life. So and this is a really long-winded way to answer your question, my holistic journey began by observation, by having one person tell me about these newfangled things that a rheumatologist recommended because no drug is working for her, but these omega-3 fish oil fatty acids were like life-changing.
Yeah.
I began studying that kind of stuff and incorporating that into my more holistic with an H practice, meaning that I was still basing it on the physiologic paradigm that I knew as a scientist and from vet school. But then things began to shift when I realized that the physical paradigm was all secondary to the energetic paradigm. And we can go into that further or not. We can drop it all together if you like, but that's where I am today.
No, I would love to. I've got to follow up because I just gotta. Why, why did magic become important?
Oh, what a great question. Nobody ever asked me why did magic become about,
I pick the weirdest things out of stories. I know it's.
I just had an affinity. Doug Henning was starring in the Magic Show on Broadway at that time, which I saw 3 or 4 times. My mom, being a mom of, in the 60s and 70s, allowed me as a, 10-year-old kid to take the train from Long Island into New York City and go see shows by myself. And there was a magic shop called Lasso and Harmon's Magic Shop in Broadway
Okay.
that, yeah, I don't know. But then I began building illusions, and that's when perhaps more analytic came together with the magical.
Yeah.
I do
Just
have to say one story, and that
go
is
ahead.
after my years as a magician, I was already into science, heavier into science. I was in a bookstore, and a book fell on my head, and it was a book about magic by Jeff Feinman. Not me.
Oh my gosh. That's pretty cool. Fell on your
Perhaps,
head too.
perhaps one of my early exposures to the fact that there's more than the eye can see out there.
Right. And I wondered if that's where it was going to go, whether it was cuz to interestingly both science and magic have been very, I don't know if I'd use the word central, but very big interests of mine, that it's to be able to learn as much about how the world works, but then also be able to say, and there's so much we don't know. And I would almost think that like just the scientific method would be enough for that, because obviously we don't know everything. I mean, that's really clear. But I think when you have magic, it brings a, this is my opinion, it forces you to go, I don't know how that worked, and I like that, because I think that scientists today, they hate not knowing. And so that was partly why I asked, for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, it's a great direction because it's basic of why scientists nowadays are not exploring these things. And
Yeah.
some of them are, but unfortunately, the funding is not there to that. The funding is there to investigate molecular mechanisms that we can put up with the drug that we can now patent and sell for $100 a pill.
Right, right. This does lead into, I mean, because you had mentioned context. There's also context that you've brought up in terms of holistic health on your website. And so can you explain first of all, when you mean context, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm going to go back to the very first quote that we had in Holistic Actions, and that was the answer to all medical questions. Whenever somebody asks me about a pet or a person, I always have the same answer, and that is, it depends. And
Sure.
I have a shirt that says, it depends, but the back of the shirt says, on the context.
Okay.
So in that when we talk about the context that I was discussing before, you could have a depressed, anxious individual, but if the context is they're exploring their world and they're trying to get better, that's a lot different than the depressed, the anxious person curled up in bed. That as I begin to learn about the broader picture that connects us all, I think it's going to help. It will. It does. I mean, we have research studies that show that connection helps us be better people.
Right, right. So when you say context, you're meaning behavior as well, or behavioral or mental health even you might even throw in there. Am I getting this right? I don't want to
You're
put
totally
words.
getting it right. And
Good.
I would just say, and more and more and more. I mean, context
Yeah.
is the whole. And that's why I mentioned I spell holistic, not with an H, but with a W. The whole. I mean, the whole. And again, this is not something outside science. This is something that's been part of science and part of life for thousands of years. So
Yeah.
our Cartesian, our current scientific approach may not be the kind of science that's going to help us explore things that are unknown, because we are focused on the visible. We are focused on things that we can affect.
Oh, I like how you've put that. Yeah, the visible, the things that we can affect. That's an excellent point. Because actually now I want to ask the question too. We You've also mentioned that we allopathic medicine typically prioritizes like suppressing symptoms. I don't want to say prioritizes. It generally works in the way of suppressing symptoms, but we're looking for a pathology first. I mean, you see health as more than that. Can you explain that? Especially when we think about only suppressing symptoms, or yeah, let me stop. You know where I'm going.
I do know where you're going, I think, and I'm going to go back to the old definition by the WHO, of wellness, and it was the
Okay.
absence of disease. Right, right, exactly. And that's not where it is now, because wellness in our definition is freedom and flexibility. Your body
Yeah.
should be free and able to do whatever you want. That equates to a dog or a cat that doesn't have to eat one food or else they get sick.
Yeah.
Can't go to a place because they get fears, or they're scared, but they're joyful, they're happy. I mean, as a scientist, it's been beautiful experimenting on my own pets, on myself, and observing the effects of thousands of pets, at holistic actions around the world for almost a decade.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about always works for animals, but not necessarily for people. Meaning that when we connect better, they do better. And we would do better if we could get outside of our heads, because that's what us.
I
And that
see.
brings us back to symptoms, because symptoms limit, symptoms automatically move a doctor into the fixed mindset.
Okay.
You got to get rid of the symptoms. Symptoms are bad, and here are the 3 ways we can do it: with an antibiotic, an
Right.
anti-inflammatory, or one of these newfangled molecular drugs. And of course, anti is the opposite of what we're talking about. Anti is like antibiotic against life.
Right. Right. I wonder if I'm opening up a can of worms. Do Is your opinion based? So I've got to figure out how to pull this all together. Animals have the tendency to default to happiness, whereas here, at least in Western society, I think we've been trained to be unhappy. And I think that, so now here's my question, I guess. When we think of, because what I'm trying to say, I don't want to use the word sickness. Because I think we see health in terms of sickness as opposed to health. And if we had more of a positive mindset on that to say, well, I want to be healthy as opposed to the absence of disease, do you think that's a distinguishing characteristic? I mean, I'm asking you somewhat of a psychology question here, but run with it. What do you
I
think?
do, and I know that it is a big
Okay.
factor. And so this has been studied in research throughout the world. I mean, right up here at Yale, we've got Dr. Becca Levy at Yale, studying something called age belief. And
Okay.
just believing that we're not gonna die in a year or two, or Becca found that even 80-year-olds that begin to think of their life as more expansive and more longer, they could put on up to 8 years of their life.
Oh,
So, and animals are in that zone all the time. They are
yeah.
in the what is possible zone, the zone of joy, the zone of love. They live there. The only reason they're not there all the time is what we impose.
I see. Oh, fascinating. So you have mentioned now thousands of pets that have gone through holistic actions. I don't want to say go through, have gone through. This sort of sounds like there's like a beginning and an end, and you just go, nope, we're done. But you mentioned joy and love, so emotions. You're ascribing emotions to animals and mental health. A different mindset. Obviously, Western society doesn't generally go with this. How has that changed sort of your approach to healing then, to give animals characteristics that I guess, at least in some religions are only given to humans?
Yeah, and for me, it's just been a gradual evolution. I wish I could say what shifted my mindset, because in veterinary school we're first of all, we're even taught that animals don't have symptoms.
Oh,
Symptoms are subjective. Animals have what we call clinical signs.
oh
So
gosh.
we clinicalize them right away. But
Yeah.
it's also embodied in the word pet owner. Like
Yes.
the pet is a piece of your property, part of your property. And
Right.
so if we prefer the Hawaiian term kahu or guardian, or we're all connected. The animals are just all part of our family, and the way that we see them will affect how healthy they are. And that is the beautiful merging of science, spirituality, love, energy, physiology, and all very, very lucky.
I love that, and I think that's beautiful. Because I know you've seen the effect on pets' health that the family around them, if you can make the family around them more positive as well, that helps the pet's health. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, that's a really, really, really important point. But and I was just discussing how to get that fact across without making us feel badly that we've hurt our pets, because it's not really
Right.
about that. But the converse is true. You sit and you meditate quietly, and you can automatically downregulate your own nervous system
Yeah.
from sympathetic to parasympathetic healing zone. But animals are very, very sensitive to that energy. So I sit every morning and meditate with my rescue dog, who we can talk a little bit about, because she is the embodiment of what we're talking about, but they begin to match your breathing, they begin to calm down, and they begin to get into a zone where the bodies are able to do the job that they are really designed to do.
Yeah.
Because what animals have developed and what we have developed are obstacles to the smooth flow of the energy in the body that allows your body to stay in balance.
Okay. I would love, you mentioned your rescue dog plays a part in this story. I'd love to hear, how does the rescue dog play into it?
How deep do you want
You
to
had
go?
mentioned,
It starts with reincarnation in the afterlife.
okay, let's do it. Come on.
If you're up for that, hey,
Sure.
I had my heart dog, Archie.
Okay.
You
So
can
there we
say
go.
Archie. I had
Yeah.
Archie, and Archie developed a fatal kidney disease and died at
Okay.
a young age because of things that we now understand more, and that is he was susceptible to Lyme nephritis. After he died in my arms, I was meditating one day, and Archie came to me and said, you really need to get another dog. So I went to adopt the dog locally, met a bunch of dogs, and didn't really bond with any of them because they weren't what I was thinking about. But I came back and meditated, and Archie said, that's the dog you need to adopt. So why didn't you adopt her? So I went back the next day and picked up Miss Maya.
There we go.
Yeah, Miss Maya, magical Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Maya was at that point 4 months of age. She was born in a shelter in Tennessee. She had all vaccinations. She had rabies. She was spayed, which is an ovarian hysterectomy. She had multiple drugs all before she was 12 weeks of age.
Wow.
And she was, of course, because she was born in the shelter, she was never socialized, so her brain never developed properly.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
she came to me at 4 months of age, thanks to Archie, she was a bundle of feeling. She couldn't even walk in the
Yeah.
door. She couldn't get in the car.
Oh.
So my treatment for her was totally letting her be a dog, do what feels right, support her and love her, and try to remain balanced and calm in the meantime, and not worrying, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that.
Right.
So here we are 8 months later, and she's just a pure, joyful, loving being that it's like somebody at the dog park said the other day, you've got a real dog. A real dog who loves to run, loves to be with other dogs, loves to dig, loves to explore, loves to kind of do all things that we're designed to do.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was a very vulnerable story. I appreciate you sharing that with me. That just wanted to honor you for that. So she. Forgive me. I forgot her name already. Remind me of your of.
Maya. Is that
Thank you,
Maya?
Maya. Just out of curiosity, did you use that because of the Sanskrit? Okay, concept of illusion and everything. Okay, because you did mention illusion
Magic.
earlier.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's also a Hebrew word, so yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know it was a Hebrew word. What does it mean in Hebrew?
I've gotten conflicting translations, but it's like
Okay.
from God, from water, or just water, or yeah.
Okay. Hebrew's got a lot of interpretations, doesn't it? So, especially if you end up going into numerology and all the other things with
Mm,
with
oh,
Hebrew. Yes, right. Get into. I guess I've always heard it Kabbalah, but that's there's somebody who once wrote it was in a book that I read about Kabbalah in particular that said if you can just find three people who agree with the way it's pronounced and spelled, that's a magical movement right there. All they have to do is agree on spelling and pronunciation. You're off to the races. Boy, I had a great question about Maya. I wonder what it was. I don't know. Oh, I do remember. So you have included her in your daily spiritual practices, meditation, and I don't know if you use walking meditation as well. Or exposure to nature or anything like that. How fascinating! Because I guess again, we don't. Typical Western people are not going to think about that. They're going to go, whatever. We let the dog out and she goes pee and that's fine, right? But it isn't fine. So tell me more about why that isn't fine.
For the animals or for us? There are two different ways of looking at it. And for us, I'll start with and I'll start with the fact someone like, I don't know if you know Eckhart Tolle, who's the teacher of being in the present moment and
Yeah.
the power of now, and many Buddhists and every teachers that I've actually ever read or been exposed to. Now, you're going to have to bring me back. What were we just talking about?
Oh. Right. How? Because I had asked about. We were thinking about just letting a dog out and to go pee, and that's fine. But including her in your spiritual practice is important. So go ahead.
Yeah, I got it all the time. That's how Eckhart, Eckhart calls them, for us, he calls the animals and nature our portals into presence. Basically, our animals or being in nature can help us dispel some thoughts in our mind and help us focus on looking at this beautiful tree out the window or the hummingbird or the dog or And I mean, walks in nature are for me meditative walks, meaning that I'm walking with my dog and sniffing and listening and looking and not using my phone, not using a device. But that's another story, because when she sees me on a device, she begins to say, you need to pay attention to me. You need to be back in the now.
Oh, I love that. My cat does tend to sit on my keyboard. I don't know if that's her telling me to be back in the now. It's cats, but what I'm hearing, at least the way that I would paraphrase this, is that ultimately you're not. How do I want to say this? That you end up with a relationship with a pet that they provide value to you as you provide value to them. And I mean mental health, spiritual, energetic, however you want to put it, but it becomes a system. As long as we're talking about holistic healthcare, you become a system with your pet, or you for optimum health, I suppose you would want to have a system with your pet. Does that sound accurate? Am I going off the rails?
No, so I have to admit, I think we're both off the rails. we're certainly off the rails if the rails are conventional medicine and life
Well,
as it is.
right, but I mean, you and I had spoken, before we started recording about how I rebel against this idea, or I reject this idea that the human experience is characterized only by pathology and then normal, because the human experience is anything that we observe must be normal, right? I mean, that's science, that is nature. I probably had somewhere interesting I was going to go with it. Do you just want to pick that up? Pick that thread up?
I was just gonna play a little bit on what you said. Nature
Please.
is science.
Yeah.
That is the science. That is the science of equilibrium, of vitality, of the inner terrain. Terrain is an environment, it's in soil. I mean, you want to grow a healthy plant, you've got to have good soil. And we have
Right.
something called the terrain optimizing program for animals, where we focus not on the symptoms, rather see the symptoms as evidence of the terrain is imbalanced, and that there are always things that you can do to rebalance it and get those symptoms to go away. But going back to context, Maya has had white goopy eye discharge for months.
Okay.
It's an eye infection if I go to the vet. I got to put something in her eyes.
Sure.
Because we're seeing the germ as being more fundamental than the inner terrain to the balance. But when you look at the context of the way the body works, discharging is a big way that it heals and rebalances internally. And as she's been discharging, things are getting better in her beam, which we haven't talked about beam yet, but
No.
beam is perhaps the connector of all these parts, because that is what we're trying to optimize, and that's why they live in that zone of joy or happiness.
Okay. I was gonna get to beam. I realized I didn't write it down as like a question here, but I figured we'd get there sort of naturally. So this is an acronym. Can you actually? I think it's something different, sort of like laser and scuba. There's a different word for that, not acronym, but because it pronounces as a word. Sorry for the
Oh
etymology
yeah, no,
language
now
there,
we're
but
getting, I never thought of that. No.
yeah. So tell now you're
Yeah,
wondering. I have to
remember
look
what
it
that
up,
word is.
right? Like laser or scuba. I forget what it is, but I'll look it up. So please tell me about Beam, because this is a model for holistic health. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, that actually is the beginning of it. Is the floor is mine, and I'm not flying around the room because the floor and gravity are keeping me grounded. A
Okay.
beam is, think of it like a laser beam or a tractor beam if you're a Trekkie like me, a tractor beam from Star Trek, or the balance beam. Beam is forgive my language, but it's an acronym for maybe not the right word, but for
Close enough.
behavior, energy, appetite, and mood.
Okay.
Those are the factors that we always want to see improve as they get better throughout life and as we get better and older. So as we get older, we can maintain a high beam despite symptoms. So we can have, and this is something I learned from my own body, is that we can have symptoms out the wazoo. Right now, off the top of my head, I count 8 physical symptoms that I'm manifesting.
Okay.
But my beam is getting better and better and better because that beam reflects the quality of the energetic balance in the
Sure.
being. And what we've learned in animals over the years is that just by focusing on the beam, symptoms resolve. And those symptoms may be behavioral, they may be physical, or they may just be blood test abnormalities. I've seen hematocrit blood counts go back to normal. I've seen diseases remit. I do have
Yeah.
to go back. Disease is spelled with hyphen, right?
Well,
Fifth ease.
should. Yes.
And that I think highlights, the holistic paradigm that, we want to be in ease.
Yeah. You okay, here was what I was going to ask. just as an aside, I did do a quick look up here. An acronym is something that you pronounce as a word. So beam and laser and scuba, those are true acronyms. Otherwise, they're called initialisms, like PTO or I
God.
don't know of something else. But
Phew.
aren't you glad we cleared that up? Woo!
Yeah, man. It's,
Now,
yeah,
now,
it makes sense. Oh.
right now, the world can move on peacefully. One of which one of the points you made was that you're not applying necessarily I guess pharmaceutical treatments. You're trying to change the environment around. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, the other part, if you look back there, it's beam, and
Yes.
the other side is vitality, and that's what we're trying to affect is
Okay.
vitality, the energy. If we want to look at if you want to go from magical to scientific, the vitality, the energy is, mitochondrial function. So mitochondria are these little organelles, these little baby tiny organs that live in every cell in every body of every living being, and they generate the energy that allows us to live. And what we've learned over the years, and what we're learning more and more nowadays, is that virtually every disease is a mitochondrial disease fundamentally.
Really? Okay.
And that if we can upgrade the mitochondria. Yeah, there are lots of secondary diseases that affect the mitochondria, but that's all whatever. I don't want to get into the science stuff, but if we can work on things that raise vitality and then balance it out, then we're going to see symptoms resolve, and that's what we focus on at Holistic Actions, and that's
Yeah.
the teaching of people is really focused on. It's not even that you go through a program. They learn how to reframe their thinking about the way their animals' symptoms are.
Yeah. I I gotta wonder too. This so the whole when you have how do I want to ask this question? Like the pet parents improve as well. I would imagine they achieve better peace. I mean, I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead. They must improve as well.
That's all you really need to say. I mean, you're saying it very succinctly, and I'll say more words, which are confounding anyway. Well, I've seen people over the years that were anxious and depressed in a lot of ways, and their animals were able to. They were able to modify their behavior in a way that helped their animals. And as their animals got better, they got better as well because they were
Wow.
eating properly, they were walking in nature more, they were focusing on the now.
Wow.
If,
And
if
you
there
have
was if there was one fundamental change, I guess I would have to come up with two. The happiness protocol is one thing. Happiness is fundamental, but I'd say the one thing that had the biggest impact is the therapeutic sniff walk, which
okay.
is just meditative walk outside. The walk outside. It's sort of eyes has oh, therapeutic sniff
Actually,
work for the animals, but if you go to the Greater Good Science Center at Berkeley, you'll see that they have something called the All Walk, where you go outside and there's research that actually helps to regulate your nerves
okay.
and makes you a better less anxious person.
Yeah. And it's just I mean this is I'm going to use the word just, which is possibly a bad way to do that, but it it is something very simple, just going out in nature and do you, there are a lot of ways that that going out in nature can affect you. One, of course, is just immunologically. I'm struggling with that one. If you think about the exposure to more, you're exposed to more things when you go out into, say, a forest. In fact, you're exposed to things that you very rarely get exposed to in a home. So you could think of it in terms of exposure. I think you could think of it in terms of the quiet, the quality of air. And there was one. Well, let me stop there. What do you think are the primary benefits of nature walks, or did I tick off enough? I don't...
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head, especially with the quiet part, not only being quiet outside, but being quiet in your mind.
Yeah,
So I really, 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 really think for people, at least, that's fundamental.
I see. I agree with that.
And we can practice that. We can focus on our own energy flow, on our own organs, on the miracle that we're here, that we're functioning, that we can do this. I mean, that your body is doing its job. We'll never in science be able to really, really understand why and how the body is able to do what it's able to do. Why has inflammation, as you said, as an example, why has inflammation gotten such a bad rap? Why has inflammation gotten such a bad rap when none of us would be alive if it weren't for inflammation?
Oh,
Now, misguided inflammation that's been misguided by misinformation, by things in the body that aren't flowing well, because information flows with energy. Misguided information can be a problem, but what? So can sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours a day, or
right.
sitting in a chair. I mean, I've at one point had virtually, thanks to my brain disease, had virtually lost the ability to walk because I'm in the chair all day, and I didn't use it. And if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right. I mean, in good ways as well. I mean, your brain, when you have patterns that are dysfunctional, if you don't use those, they go away. So in good ways as well. It's not always positive things, but one of the things that occurred to me, because a lot of the work that I've done relies on I'm trying to think of how I want to put this too. It relies on oftentimes on psychology work, or I'm just going to say it. I mean, it relies on quality of life. And I have had several people, I mean, you can have a huge study, 90,000 people who say my quality of life improved, and you will have scientists, I'm going to put that in quotation marks if you don't mind, scientists who will go, yeah, but quality of life, well, you can't quantify that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Quality of life, however, in my opinion, quality of life. I saw you start to think. So let me actually stop talking, because I think you've got a point. Go ahead already.
Nope, no point. I was just listening because
Okay.
you're a topic very close to my heart, because PEM reflects quality of life, and that quality
Right.
of life is the opposite of symptoms. We've been taught to focus on symptoms and what's wrong, but quality of life is what's most important.
Yes. You answered my question without me asking it. Thank you. Go ahead. You were going to go on though.
Well, just that health span, not lifespan. I mean, what's it all about? Oh, I'm 95, I'm in the hospital, they're going to do everything possible to save you. But why? I mean, what is the reason? What is your life like? Were you having a great life? Were you a 95-year-old person?
Yeah.
Like in the blue zones that, you're connected and you're happy and you're having a good life? Or are you a 95-year-old person in the hospital that just got transferred there from a long-term care facility, but now they're gonna, put a tube down your throat and do all kinds of heroics because
Right.
they're trying to, expand lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking health span.
Yeah. I have never heard that distinction before, lifespan versus health span. And I would assume health span would be, well, the amount of time that you spend would you say with a good quality of life? Is that how you would put that?
Is
Okay. Okay. I got to tell you, I really love that because a lot of the stuff that I've read, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go to gender affirming care and just run with me for a moment, if you don't mind. Because when people who are gender nonconforming receive gender affirming care, they typically report. I mean, and this is by a large magnitude. 95% plus people report a better quality of life. And then just wait too, because then when other people look at these studies, they say, well, yeah, but people didn't stay out of jail more often. They didn't get into relationships more often. They didn't stay in jobs and be able to pay taxes more often. And so they say, well, overall, these are failures because they didn't make somebody better at paying taxes, apparently. Maybe that's the whole point, is it just comes down to taxes. But we tend to dismiss quality of life because we have different measures. We have, quantitative, I suppose, measures, first of all. But I don't know if those quantitative measures measure the human experience, whereas, or your pet's experience, whereas quality of life does.
And I couldn't agree more, and that is the basis for my book and the basis
Yes.
for holistic actions and the basis for my life. So yes, thank you for saying that.
I'm glad I could sum up. I'm curious here too. So now the book is being published shortly, correct?
It is. We are in the process right now, and hopefully we'll be on official pre-order in a couple of weeks.
Oh gosh. Okay, so really quickly. That's fun. What do you see? What do you see as sort of the future for holistic healthcare? Look maybe 10 years in the future, or 20.
Realistically, or in my brain?
Gosh, I'd love to hear both. Realistically first, though. What do you think realistically?
Realistically, I think that the mitochondrial energy paradigm is going to be embraced. I think that they're just now in animals starting studies that have been done in people, and you have people like Martin Picard had Columbia in New York and others that are connecting mitochondrial health and behavioral health and happiness and all that.
Oh,
So we're doing that in people, but not animals. So I think that the holistic world will spill over to the conventional world in that the mitochondrial and energy connection will begin to show us ways to focus on health. Physiologically speaking, that will upgrade the mitochondria and upgrade the energetic flow.
so you mentioned exposomes and how that plays into holistic health a little bit. Can you expound on that some?
Sure, let's define exposome first. Maybe we'll start doing that by genome or genetics. That's your genes. We all have genes.
Yeah.
We used to think in medicine that once we knew what the genes were and what they coded for and blah, 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 that we'd have the clue, we'd have the clues that we need to solve, most diseases. So we used to call it personalized medicine. But then we've come to learn over the years that it's really more about the environment, about the lifestyle, about our choices. It's about exposures, and what your body does with that is based on genes partially, but not totally. And the exposome is a molecular biology field of study that allows us to see what's going on at a molecular level in the body when it's exposed to different things, toxins or infectious disease or thoughts or different foods or pretty much everything. So exposomics is actually the upgrade of genomics. So we used to have the
Okay.
Human Genome Project, which was designed to just map the human genome, but now we have the Human Exposome Project, which is mapping our susceptibility or our chances of getting sick from any exposure.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting. I followed the Human Genome Project very closely for a while, because I thought, oh yeah, we will know everything about the human experience once we finish the Human Genome Project. And I believe they called that completed, around 2002, 2003? It was early 2000s. And just more recently, as I've been looking into that, the Human Genome Project pitches that we have somewhere between 20 and 30,000 genes that we've now mapped out. What's fascinating about that, at least to somebody like me, is that it's about 10% of our actual chromosomal makeup, allosomic and sex chromosome makeup. It's about 10% that we've mapped, that we understand. So I forget how you put it. Exposomic? I can't even say it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like epigenetics. It's like the factors that alter the genes that can affect
Yeah.
their translation or transcription, the way they work, what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is good because it seems like most people believe that just that 10% of our actual genetic material runs everything. And we have really struggled to explain many things when we're only talking about 10% of the human genome to begin with. But I think that's sort of the definition, I guess, of Western medicine there, isn't it?
You got to be able to measure it. You got to be able to see it under a microscope that got stronger and stronger and stronger. But we'll never be able to see your memories of, the house where you grew up, or and it's not all about what you can see. I can't look inside your brain and say, "Oh, that's her memory from so and so," or that's what.
Right. So beautiful. I wrote this one question. I'm going to ask this question, and I wrote it to sound somewhat provocative. You had mentioned you figured in the next decades, veterinary schools would think differently, would teach differently. Do you believe so? Now I'm actually going to pull that out. If we put this into medical schools, do you think humans will ever be treated with the same compassion and respect that you advocate for in animals?
Oh, that's very provocative, and I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go there. All I can say is that we go into veterinary medicine as usually heart-centered, animal-loving people. We may not come out that way. We may not practice that way. But it would be great if all the MDs, all the people going to medical, because they actually are incorporating this now into some, if not most, medical schools. Yeah. Now there are people that may choose, just like people zone out on organic, chemistry or this or that. But there are others. There are doctors, that we've seen over the past 40, 50 years that are focusing on, I'm going to quote a buddy of mine, Bernie Siegel, wrote a book in the 80s called Love, Medicine, and Miracles. Now, before we knew that this was a scientifically based paradigm, Bernie was basing it strictly on his observation patients. and he has hundreds of animals, but that's another story.
Well, I appreciate you entertaining my question at the very least. I think we struggle with that. I think most people are more willing to treat their animals with compassion and respect than themselves. And I hope we see a change in, as soon as possible. How about that? So I'm looking at the time here. We're starting to run a bit low. With everything that you've brought up, I will guarantee there's at least one person who's going to say they want to engage with this further. How do we find you on the internet? How do we engage with you more fully?
Probably the best way, and it may be definitely the best way is just go to wholisticactions.com.
Okay.
Sign up for our free one-on-one course that will give you the basics of everything we're talking about, but it will do it in a more granular way as far as looking at love, looking at your daily love, looking at food and how you food. Because I'm thinking about love is food, love is energy, but
It is, right?
and that one-on-one course, is free, so it's free, but it's worth it. If I can say that. That would be my goal, is for everybody around the world to take that free course, because that begins to shift our mindset a little bit, because it's really not about a different approach, it's just about a different way of looking at things. It's the same facts, but it's incorporating more and bigger facts. So we can do it best through wholisticactions.com. When they start taking that one-on-one course, they will be part of our community and get weekly emails of inspiration and tips and where we are, but they can also sign up for the Path to Pet Wellness book.
Mm-hmm.
The wait list is live right now. Actually, we'll be planning a webinar for people on the wait list in the next couple of weeks.
Cool, super cool. I see you have a presence on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Do you use those frequently?
Personally, I mean,
I
Holistic
suppose.
Actions does.
Yeah.
Holistic Actions posts every day.
Good enough.
Yeah, but I haven't been on for a while, unfortunately. I mean, I am
That's
now
fine.
gonna get on. We have a fairly robust private group on Facebook of all like-minded people. So I will be getting back there. And Maya and I have been doing posts on Instagram for a while now. So you can see my morning musings with Maya as we, at the end of our meditation, I set the camera up and we, because that's among the only times when she's predictably quiet. She's a 1-year-old, fairly big, pure muscle, just
Right.
she wants to be, entertained all the time and doing something all the time.
Sure. I love that though. You do this every morning that you'll film a little bit?
But not that we don't make a video every morning.
Yeah, okay.
I should, but it's a pain in the butt.
It's huge. Yeah. Don't make this your vocation. Let me just say that. Don't make it a vocation. Because it isn't a lot of laughs. I don't know if I should say that at the end of a podcast, but
we can laugh.
We can laugh about it. Yeah.
Reason why holistic action is one of the reasons it's holistic action is because the initials are ha. And laughter is the best medicine, and laughter will indeed bring us into that zone of joy. And even if we just fake it until we make it and begin smiling like this, our bodies will think that we're happy and work better.
I believe you. I believe that entirely. I'm not enthusiastic about ending This has been a wonderful conversation, and I thank you, first of all, for all your vulnerability, for bringing your story into this and helping us understand better, what's going on with health. Because I think most people have sort of shut down at this point. We hear you should eat eggs. No, you shouldn't eat eggs. Oh no, go ahead and eat eggs, but just get vitamin A, but don't get too much vitamin A. And I think our confidence, I don't want to say trust, I think our confidence in science has diminished because we hear so much conflicting information about health and the human experience. So thank you for doing the work that you do.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. All right. Well, I'll do my little close, my little shutdown, my little close up. My name is Amethysta Herrick. I've been speaking with Dr. Jeff Feinman about holistic health and the system of pet parent and pet. And then also, and I love the way you said this, Jeff, looking at health with a different mindset. Not a smaller mindset, but a larger mindset. And I love that. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I can't wait to come back and talk about the overwhelm that you're talking about, because that's what holistic medical decision making, another acronym that isn't an acronym actually. I forgot what you call them. HMDM, holistic medical decision making. That will help dispel all that overwhelm.
Yes. All right, we'll do it again. That was an initialism, I think it was called. That's what it was. But we'll do it. I think it's a huge thing. I think it's a huge problem, this overwhelm that people get. So, including me, who is a scientist. So, but yeah, we'll plan that. I'll just say thank you again, though.
Thank you.